My name is Jason Mercer. I was 22 years old working part-time at a Starbucks going nowhere fast when I met a girl at a karaoke bar who sang like she meant every word. Then she disappeared, and when I found her again, I wish I had not. If you have ever looked at something on a screen and known immediately that you should not be seeing it, keep listening. Because what I found took me a long time to understand. And when I finally understood it, I could not sleep for 3 weeks. Leave a comment if you live near a bar or venue where local performers play. Stay with me. The karaoke bar on 5th, I want to be straight with you about where I was in my life when this happened. Not because it matters to what I found, but because it explains why I was spending so much time in a bar at the end of a street I barely lived on anymore. I was 22, still at my parents' house in a suburb of Portland, sharing a wall with a baby brother who was getting older fast and apparently needed my room for it. My dad made that point in various ways over the course of several months, the most direct being a conversation while I was doing laundry that ended with him telling me I had plenty of time to figure it out, and that time was essentially up. I was a part-time barista at a Starbucks about 6 blocks from that house. Not enough hours to move out, not enough free time to find a second job, just enough income to feel stuck in a place I had already outgrown. The karaoke bar was called Hal's. It sat on 5th Avenue, half a block from my workplace, and it had a small cover charge in live performances most weeknights. I started going there after my shift ended because going home felt like walking into an argument I had already lost. At Hal's, I knew the bartender by name. There was a corner table near the back that was usually open. The lighting was low, and the music was loud enough to fill in the silence inside my own head. I had been going there for about a month when I first heard Katie. She performed on Wednesdays. She had a small but devoted following, the kind that shows up early and stays through the whole set and claps too long at the end of each song. When she took the stage, the general noise of the bar settled down a bit. People stopped mid-conversation and turned toward her. She was in her mid-20s. Dark hair, strong stage presence, the kind of voice that sounds better lived than any recording, because you can feel it in your chest when the room is quiet enough. She wore simple clothes and no elaborate presentation. She just stood at the mic and sang, and the room came to her. I had talked to her after shows a few times. Brief conversations near the backstage door. She was direct and a little guarded in the way performers sometimes are when they suspect you're going to say something predictable. I had said something predictable the first time, and she had waited it out with good grace. Over the following weeks, I tried harder. I asked better questions. I listened to the answers. We built up a series of brief post-show conversations that felt like something. One Wednesday in November, I waited until the crowd around her thinned, and I walked over and told her I wanted to exchange numbers. She gave me her phone. I expected to type in my contact information. Instead, she typed something and handed it back. She had put in a link, a subscription page, not a phone number. I stood there in the bar doorway looking at the link on my screen with the particular feeling of a person who has just been let down in a way he cannot quite articulate as a complaint. I went home and opened the link on my laptop. Her page, $10 a month. Photos and videos, the usual setup for that kind of platform. I subscribed, which I am not proud of, but I am not going to pretend otherwise because what I found later matters more than how I found it. Her content was what you would expect from someone using the platform to monetize their audience. She was confident in front of the camera. The post went back about 8 months. The aesthetic was consistent across everything, warm lighting her bedroom in the background, that same direct quality she had on stage. I looked at it and went to bed. The 5 observations. 3 weeks went by. I worked my shifts and went to Hal's on Wednesdays and looked for Katie among the performers. She was not there. The 3rd week, I asked Sally behind the bar if Katie had taken a break. Sally said she had not heard from her in a couple of weeks. She said Katie sometimes took time off between residencies. She did not seem concerned. I went home and opened the subscription page of my laptop. Still active on my end, the monthly charge still hitting my account. I noticed 5 things in the first few minutes of looking. The first was her status indicator. Active 5 minutes ago. She was still using the account. Whatever was going on, it was not that she had shut the page down or stepped back from the platform. The second was her photos. The 3 most recent posts were all of her wearing sunglasses. Not fashion sunglasses. Solid lenses, the kind you wear to block light completely. She had never worn sunglasses in any of her previous posts. 8 months of content, no sunglasses, and then suddenly every new photo had them on. The third was the setting. Her bedroom, which had been the backdrop of everything she had posted for 8 months, was gone. The 3 new photos were taken in what looked like a wooden room. Old walls, low ceiling, the kind of space that exists below ground level. A cellar or a basement, the kind of room with no windows and no natural light. The aesthetic was completely different from everything that had come before it. The fourth was that all of her previous content had been deleted. 8 months of posts, every photo, every video, gone. The page that had existed before was empty except for the 3 new photos. The fifth observation was what made me sit forward in my chair. In all 3 of the new photos, in the lower left corner of each image, there was a shadow, not her shadow. She was standing in the center of the frame, and her shadow was behind her. This shadow was to the side, the shadow of a person standing just outside the frame, holding what appeared from the shape of it to be a phone or a camera aimed at Katie. Someone else was taking the photos. I sat with all 5 of those things and tried to find an explanation that made them ordinary. A new aesthetic choice, a change in creative direction, a collaborative project. I tried each of these explanations on, and none of them covered all 5 observations at the same time. I opened a direct message to her account. I told her I was Jason from the karaoke bar and asked why she was not performing there anymore. I waited 10 minutes. No reply. I sent a second message. I said I would pay $5 for a short video of her smiling on camera. I want to explain why I did that specifically. It was not about the content, it was a test. If she was choosing not to interact with messages, she would not respond to this either. If she was being made to use the account by someone else, the lure of $5 might produce a response that I could read. A response came about 90 seconds later. A locked video with a $5 price tag. I unlocked it. The video was 17 seconds long. Katie was standing in what was clearly the same wooden room as the photos. She was wearing the sunglasses. She was not saying anything. She was just standing there, hands at her sides, not moving. Then from somewhere behind the camera, a man's voice. He said, "Smile for the camera." The pause before she smiled was about 2 seconds. Then her face moved into a smile that did not reach anything above her mouth. A mechanical arrangement of facial muscles. The expression of a person performing an action they have been instructed to perform and are performing as minimally as possible. The video ended. The last $5 I sat in the dark of my room for a while after that. My desk lamp was the only light. Outside it was raining. I could hear the sound of it against the window above my desk. I was thinking about the voice. Male, calm, confident. The tone of someone accustomed to giving instructions in that space. Not loud, not threatening in its volume. Just matter of fact in a way that was worse than loud would have been. I thought about the room, the old wooden walls. No windows visible in the frame. A cellar or a basement somewhere in a house that could be anywhere. I thought about the sunglasses. Every new photo. Every new video. Sunglasses that covered her eyes, completely worn indoors in a room with low artificial light. I sent another message. I said I would pay $5 more for a video of her with whoever was there with her. I used the word friend. I said, whoever you are with your friend. I told myself this was information gathering. I told myself I needed to understand the situation more clearly before I decided what to do. 11 minutes passed before the response came. Another locked video. $5. I unlocked it. Katie appeared on screen again in the same room. The same sunglasses. The man's voice came immediately. He said he called me your friend. Tell him what I am. Katie looked at the camera for a moment. Then she spoke. Her voice was flat and careful, and she spoke in the particular way of someone reciting something they have been required to say. She said he was not her friend. She said he was her everything, her one and only, her whole world. The man's voice again, warmer this time. He said, "That's right. That is exactly right." Then he said something to me, directly addressing me through the camera, speaking to whoever was on the other end of the transaction. He said I had paid for something good. He said he was going to give me my money's worth. He said, "I bet you would love to see Katie's beautiful eyes. She has the most beautiful eyes." He stepped partially into the frame. I could see one side of him, an arm, part of a shoulder, the side of a face. Something about him was familiar in the way that faces you have seen briefly in passing are familiar, a recognition without a source. He reached toward her face. He took the sunglasses off. I closed the browser. I closed it before the image resolved completely, but I saw enough. I saw enough to understand why she had been wearing the sunglasses in every photo since her page changed. I understood what he had meant when he said she had the most beautiful eyes. I understood why he was the one taking the photos. I sat in the dark in my room for a long time. What I did and did not do, I want to be honest about what came next. I did not behave perfectly. I was 22 years old and I had just seen something through a screen that my brain was actively trying to refuse. I did not call the police that night. I sat at my desk for a long time, and then I went to bed and I did not sleep. The next morning I opened the browser and navigated back to the page. It was gone. The account was deleted. The link returned an error. I drove to Hal's that afternoon and sat at the bar before it opened and waited for Sally. When she came in, I told her I was worried about Katie. I said she had not been at the bar for several weeks and that I had seen something online that concerned me. I did not describe what I had seen. I said I thought she might need help. Sally took it seriously. She had Katie's phone number from a previous engagement booking. She called it. It rang through to a generic voicemail. She left a message. We both went to the police station on 5th Avenue that afternoon. I gave a statement. I described the account, the change in content, the videos, the room, the shadow in the photos, the man's voice, and what I had seen at the end of the final video. The officer who took the statement asked detailed questions. He took the name of the platform and the account username. He brought in a second officer for the last part of my description. They opened a welfare check based on the report. I do not know everything that followed from that because the investigation was not something I was part of. I gave a follow-up statement 2 weeks later and provided screenshots I had taken during the initial session before I closed the browser. They were not conclusive, but they were something. I was told the platform was being contacted to preserve and provide account activity data. I was not told anything else. The case did not appear in any news I could find. I do not know if they found her. I do not know if the account data led anywhere. I do not know if the man in the video was identified. What I know is that the account never reappeared. The username returned nothing when I searched for it over the following months. Either it was gone because law enforcement had intervened, or gone because whoever was running it had moved on to something else. Neither of those possibilities feels like an ending. The man's face. There is one more thing I want to tell you. About 6 weeks after I filed the report, I was at Hal's on a Wednesday evening. I had gone back to my routine partly because I did not know what else to do with the time, and partly because I needed the noise. The new performer that night was someone I had not seen before. I was at my usual corner table with a drink and my phone, and I was not paying close attention to anything in particular. At some point, I looked up. An older man was sitting 2 tables away from me facing the stage. He was watching the performance the way you watch something you have seen many times with comfortable familiarity rather than fresh attention. He was in his late 40s or early 50s, neatly dressed, nothing remarkable about his appearance from across the room. Then he turned his head slightly and I saw his profile against the stage light. I recognized him, not from somewhere I could name, from the side of a face that appeared in the corner of a frame on a screen in my room at night. A partial view, a shoulder and an arm and the edge of a jaw. I sat completely still for a moment. Then I picked up my phone and dialed the number of the officer I had spoken with. He did not answer. I left a message. I described where I was and who I was looking at, and I said I could not be certain, but I was reasonably certain. I kept my eyes on the man for the next 4 minutes until he stood up and put on his jacket. He walked past my table on his way to the door. He did not look at me. He walked with the unhurried ease of a person who had nowhere urgent to be and had already decided where he was going. He went out the door and I went after him and stood on the sidewalk outside Hal's and watched him walk north on 5th Avenue until he turned a corner 2 blocks up and was gone. The officer called back 40 minutes later. By then the street was empty. I told him what I had seen. I gave the direction, the time, the clothing. I described the face as precisely as I could. I do not know if it helped. I still go to Hal's on Wednesdays. Not every week, but often enough. I always take the corner table near the back, and I face the door rather than the stage. An old man who used to come in regularly told me once that Katie had the prettiest eyes he had ever seen on a performer. He said it the first time I ever saw her. I thought he was just a fan. I thought he was just some old man who showed up to watch a pretty girl sing. I think about that a lot now. The things that look like nothing at all. The things that are already in progress while you are still deciding whether to pay attention. She sang every Wednesday for 8 months in a room full of people who watched her face and listened to her voice and went home and thought nothing more of it. She was right there in the light, and whatever was happening was already happening. I hope someone found her. I have to believe that. Otherwise, the alternative is that she is in a wooden room somewhere with the man's voice behind a camera and nobody who knows where to look. I have submitted everything I have to the platform's trust and safety team. I have sent follow-up emails to the officer 3 times since the initial report. I check every few months. I have not found anything. If you have ever seen something online that felt wrong in the specific way I am describing wrong, in the way that means a person is not there by choice, do not wait. Do not run through the list of explanations that make it ordinary. File the report that night. Give them everything you have, because sometimes by the time you understand what you are looking at, the page is already gone. And all you have left is a partial face in the corner of a frame and a voice that said, "Smile for the camera," like it had said it many times before.